Hello and welcome to the Strong, Healthy, Happy podcast. Today, I'm going to be talking about all things overwhelm, and it happens to us all, no matter what area of our lives. We can all experience feelings of overwhelm. Now, obviously, my job is to coach women to achieve their goals, and I help them with reducing feeling of overwhelm because as their coach, I do the thinking and they do the doing. So it's a great way of reducing feelings of overwhelm. And often when I start working with new clients and they've been trying to do things by themselves, which is really admirable, and they have really tried hard, but they have so many goals that they're trying to achieve and so many things that they're trying to do to achieve their goal. So if we use weight loss as a goal, it's very typical, is you're trying to lose weight, you're trying to make the changes to your nutrition, you're trying to start exercising, you're trying to move more and get out exercising, but you also have a family and you also have a busy life and you may also have a job on top of that. And so trying to do all these elements of what you need to do to achieve your weight loss goal, plus manage your life, it all begins to feel overwhelming. And this is what I'm going to be talking about on this podcast today. And I've broken it down into 6 steps. So by the end of this podcast, you are going to have a much better idea of what to do and how to reduce your feeling of overwhelm. Now, before I go into that detail, this is a really good point in the podcast to remind you, first of all, to thank you for listening. It really does mean the world to me. And also hearing your feedback. I love hearing it. And, I'm passionate about helping women feel great, hence the name of my podcast, the Strong, Healthy and Happy podcast. That's what I want for all women to feel. If you're not already following the show, please do give me a follow. And also feel free to leave me a rating and a comment. And in the show notes, you will see all my contact details where you can follow me on social media. You can reach out to me in any formats or any of my platforms or my email, and you can reach out. And if you have any questions or anything you would like me to talk about in a future podcast episode, please feed it back to me because I love hearing from you and I love helping. So if there is anything that I can help you with, please do ask. And if you have a circle of friends or even one friend that you feel would benefit from listening to my podcast, I would really appreciate it if you would share my podcast with them. You will be helping them, and obviously you will be helping me and my passion to reach and help more women. So I would be so grateful if you would do that. So before I'm going to slip in here as well. It's all to do with overwhelm, and that is, I'm sure you know, but it's really worth me saying this as well, just to gain some perspective. But we live in a really fast moving world where everything's instant. Whatever you want, you can order it online with a click of a button and you can have it delivered at your home within 30 minutes. No matter what it is, you could get it delivered in 30 minutes. Like grocery shopping, I know now comes in like a 30-minute window. A friend was telling me locally, a grocery shop, you only have to have a few items. It's not like it even has to be a big shop, and it's delivered like really quickly. And there is so many delivery options to get things instantly. And we live in a fast moving world. And because of this world that we live in, when it comes to ourselves and wanting to achieve a goal, we want it quick and we want it instant. And sometimes it doesn't, we have to show a bit of patience because we have to do the work and we have to take the approach whereby you're going to be able to do these things without feeling overwhelmed and be able to do them consistently over time so that you achieve your goals. And reducing that feeling of overwhelm is going to really benefit you, because what happens when you say start a weight loss, you have a weight loss goal and you want to start dieting and you want to do exercise and you want to go out for the walk and you want to do everything, and you throw the kitchen sink at it, the thought of doing everything is so overwhelming that you end up doing nothing. And this is known as paralysis by analysis. Now, I made a note of what it of the definition, so bear with me while I just scroll through my notes and find it, because it really is apt. So paralysis by analysis is when someone thinks about something so much they can't decide on what to do or how to take action. And it's like you have so many choices and so many details to consider that you end up feeling stuck and unable to move forward, and therefore you end up doing nothing. And this is what I want you to avoid when embarking on a health and fitness journey, weight loss journey, whatever your goal is. And by the end of this podcast, you are going to have heard my 6 steps that I am going to talk you through, that I'm going to talk through with you, that is going to help you reduce the feeling of overwhelm so that you can take action and you do move forward. So I've talked about setting realistic expectations, and this kind of leads into the next point, because they all kind of meet and merge into one big thing, but I've broken it down into 6 things, and that is lowering the barrier to entry. And this will help you set your realistic expectations, because even you may not know what those realistic expectations to ask of yourself actually are. And I'm going to talk you through about what that means, lowering the barriers to entry. And you know what? I'm going to liken it to my ironing. I don't do much of it anymore. But I remember when my kids were young, I used to iron all their school uniform. My husband was in the office 5 days a week in a double cuff shirt that I used to iron, and plus all the other general ironing. And my ironing basket used to it was overflowing. And I used to look at the ironing pile and just think, oh, no, not today. And I would shut the door and forget it was there until finally I would have to address the ironing. And then what I would do is I would break the ironing piles, the big ironing pile up into smaller piles, and I would tackle one pile at a time, because looking at the overflowing pile was just giving me anxiety and feelings of overwhelm. So in the same way I split my ironing pile into smaller piles, you're going to do exactly the same, but with your health and fitness goals. Now, let's use weight loss as a goal, because it's very common. Many of us are working towards weight loss goals. I want you to make it as easy as possible. I don't want you to make it any harder than it has to be. So the first thing I want you to do is start small. You can always increase the expectation and the targets as a result of your expectation as you get a little bit more experienced and you've been doing it a little bit more consistently. But to start with, start small. And don't think that the small things don't matter, because the small things do matter. And if you make things too difficult or feel too hard for you to do, it is going to be a lot more easy for you to not want to do it at all. So start small and make it easy. For example, when you're looking to lose weight, we manipulate it from both ends. So yes, you need to eat in a calorie deficit, i.e. you're just eating less, a little bit less. And you need to also move a bit more. Now, it's a simple process, but not easy. If it was easy, we would all know what we're doing. It's difficult. You're a human being. You have work, you have life, you have a family, perhaps, you have pets, you have pressures. You're busy, and it makes things, what should be simple, feel quite difficult because you are a person with a busy life. And alongside this, you are a human being with emotions, with hormones, with feelings. And these all hinder your lack of ability sometimes to do things. So lower your barriers and make things easy. If we use walking as an example, because walking outside increases your mood and it gives you more energy, as well as get your brain more productive. And getting outside, preferably in daylight, especially now. I'm recording this in April. We are now having lighter evenings, lighter mornings. We have longer days. It is really important to get yourself out for your health. In terms of your weight loss goal, moving more expends calories. And so walking, often seen as the poor relation to a more strenuous type of exercise, is actually really beneficial. And if you think about your general movement, not just the physical act of going for a walk, but if you think about your general movement, how much you're moving, fidgeting. I'm talking to you on this podcast. I'm gesticulating with my hands. I might be fidgeting when I'm relaxing still, going up and down my stairs, cooking, cleaning. If you've got young kids, all that playing with the kids you're doing, that all contributes to movement. And movements is crudely calculated as steps. If you have an activity watch, you will know what your steps are. So increasing your expenditure is going to be very beneficial to your health goal and to your weight loss goal. So for example, you may have a really long day. You've been busy, you might have been at work, etc. And you now need to go out for a walk. And you'd rather just relax, but you know you need to do a walk. Now, if you tell yourself you're going to do a 30-minute walk, that's the equivalent of me looking at my overflowing ironing pile. It's too overwhelming, and the barrier is too high for you to do something. It's too high for you to enter. So lower the barrier. How about you tell yourself you just have to get outside for a 5-minute walk, walk to the end of the road and back. You will more likely get out. And you know what's going to happen when you get out? You'll probably really enjoy it and feel good for it. You'll probably go a little bit longer anyway. But telling yourself 5 minutes will get you out the door. And even if you did stick to that 5 minutes, you did what you set out to do, you will feel accomplished. And then you will more likely repeat that because the barrier to entry has really lowered. You step right over it like a little low level barrier that's easily, not even an effort to step over. I want to give you an example that I used for one of my clients. So she had been going to the gym regularly. She was a new gym user. She was quite nervous in the beginning, but had built up confidence and was going regularly. She went on holiday for a couple of weeks. She broke her routine. She didn't get straight back to it for one reason or another when she returned. And she spoke to me about it and just couldn't get into the gym. The thought of doing a workout was too overwhelming. And so I lowered the barrier and I said to her, all I want you to do is step foot in the gym, have a little look around, and then you can leave. You don't have to stay and you don't need to do a workout. And she did that. But did she end up leaving? No, she ended up doing part of her workout, which was a huge achievement. Don't need her to do it all. That was lowering the barrier, and now she's back regularly. So lower your barrier and set yourself realistic expectations. Now, within your expectations, I like to, with my clients, set what I call a range target. So if we use the walk, you set yourself a 5-minute walk. And if you think of a line and you've got one end of the line, your 5 minutes, that's the lower end of the spectrum, 5-minute walk. That's your minimum non-negotiable, and I'll talk about what that non-negotiable is. And at the other end, you have what would be a real optimal amount for you to go for that walk. So perhaps we have 5 minutes at the non-negotiable end, the minimum non-negotiable, and 30 minutes as a more optimal range for you to achieve. Anywhere on that line is an accomplishment, whether it be 5 minutes, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, etc., all the way to 30. Obviously, if you're at the optimal end, it's going to contribute greater to your goal, but you're not expected to do optimal all the time. Perhaps one day you do get optimal, but other days pressures are high and you hit the minimum. You're accomplished. You've achieved your range target, whether it be the lower end or the more optimal end, or somewhere in between those 2 points. That's setting yourself a range target. Decide perhaps the length of time or whatever encourages you and lowers your barrier. Perhaps getting out for the walk isn't the issue, you're just not consistent at doing it. So set yourself a range target. What's the minimum number of days you're going to get yourself on a walk? 2 days? 3 days? What's your minimum non-negotiable? And obviously at the other end of that spectrum will be 7 days. We have 7 days in the week, and that would be your optimal range. And anywhere on that spectrum, anywhere on that line, you are accomplished, you've achieved what you set out to do. And when you do this and you do it regularly, you will then build consistency. But I'm jumping ahead of myself because consistency isn't one. Consistency is my last point. It's not yet. But I want to talk a little bit more about what the non-negotiable is. So the non-negotiable is your minimum target, no matter what you want to set that target for. It could be adding how many servings of veg or fruit a day. It could be any target you want. What that non-negotiable is it is a promise to yourself. You are promising yourself that you are going to do that non-negotiable. And that non-negotiable needs to be achievable, like easily achievable. And when you fulfill the promise that you set out yourself, you're going to begin building trust in yourself. And you won't want to let yourself down. This is a promise to yourself. Don't let yourself down. When you build trust in yourself, it will enable you to feel, you will build more accountability. You will feel more in control of your choices. You will feel good. And these will have a knock-on effect and bring you closer to other positive actions and progress towards your goal. So remember that non-negotiable is a promise. It needs to be easily achieved without doubt. And then you have at the opposite end of the spectrum, the optimal. And these can change over time as you build trust and you don't let yourself down. And this is how you build accountability to yourself. You will begin to see progress. You will start to lose weight. You will feel healthier, fitter, and probably, I know, I don't even need to use the word probably, I know you will feel a lot more happier and you will reduce your feeling of overwhelm. So just to recap to this point, you've set realistic expectations, you've lowered the barrier, and you've set yourself range targets, minimum to a non-negotiable. And then we embrace, next point, it's point number 5, we embrace imperfect action. Now, you may also have heard me on previous episodes calling it being imperfectly consistent. It's the same as imperfect action. Imperfect action is having the ability to do your best depending on your circumstances and knowing that you did your best and that your best is good enough. as long as you can honestly say to yourself at the end of the day, you know what, I did my best. So it's not about aiming to be optimal. It's not about aiming to be perfect. It's about aiming to be consistent, even if it's not perfect. Because the problem with perfect is that when you can't be perfect, you feel that you failed and you're more likely to quit. So embrace imperfect action. There might be a day that so there may be a time, not necessarily the expectation when you've set yourself to get yourself out, but there may be a time that you can't do things the way that you had planned. And this is you accepting it, embracing imperfect action, and getting on with the rest of your day. Not reacting to it by quitting or taking another action that negatively impacts your progress or hinders your progress. You just draw a line, you move on, and you carry on. And this is embracing imperfect action. You will less likely feel overwhelmed. You'll less likely quit. And if you do if you are a bit of a perfectionist or you are striving to do everything exactly right, the problem, like I said with that, is that you're more likely to quit when things don't go perfectly. And then it's only going to set you further away from the actual result you want, and then give you more feelings of overwhelm when the realization hits you the following day. So set realistic expectations, lower the barrier, set yourself range targets, embrace imperfect action. You don't need to be perfect. And then I move on to being consistent. So once you've achieved all those things that are helping you get out for the walk, make good nutrition choices, perhaps start exercising. Remember, you're not doing everything at once. You're starting with low barriers to entry and low expectations. Once you're doing them consistently over time, you will make progress. And then you might feel ready to perhaps introduce another action for you to do, or to get to the exercise class or the gym that you've been meaning to do, but you've put on hold while you focused on something else. And now you feel ready. So again, set the expectation, set the range target, and then focus on building consistency. It's a bit like that game. Do you remember? I mean, I used to play it as a kid when I was young, and I've got two brothers, and when we'd on holiday, we'd be sitting in a restaurant going for a meal, and everyone was like bored waiting for the meal. And we used to play that game. I went to market and I bought. And then as you go around the table, everyone adds on something else to the shopping list. It's a bit like that with the actions that you're taking to support your goal. Start with one thing, build consistency, then add in another, then you're doing two things. Non-negotiable, set your range, do them consistently, embrace imperfect action. When you've done that consistently, maybe add in a third thing, and you can keep going. And this is how you're going to build consistency, make progress, and reduce your feelings of overwhelm. And your barriers to entry may change. Your range targets may change depending how you're getting on. But I do want to caveat, and this is really important, if you're making progress, you don't need to change anything, because if it ain't broke, you don't need to fix it. Just carry on being consistent and you'll carry on moving forward and progressing towards your goal. Now, I hope this podcast has helped you manage your feeling of overwhelm if it's something you're experiencing. And remember, you can reach out anytime for support, to ask questions, send me some feedback on the actual podcast app you're listening on, and join me on the next episode. And if you're new to this podcast and you haven't yet listened to the previous episodes, go give them a listen, because they're really going to benefit you and help you and put all the pieces of the puzzle together and support you in your health and weight loss journey. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll catch up with you on the next one.